remember me. Oh, I have to say goodbye, remember me. Don't let it make you cry, for even if I'm far away, I'll hold you in my heart, sing a secret song to you each night when we're apart. Remember me, though I have to travel far, remember me. Each time you hear a sad guitar, know that I'm with you, the only way that I can be, until you're in my arms again. Remember me. Ben will take it from the top. You ready? Remember me, though I have to say goodbye, remember me. Don't let it make you cry, for even if I'm far away, I'll hold you in my heart and sing a secret song to you each night when we're apart. Remember me, though I have to travel far, remember me. Each time you hear a sad guitar, know when I'm with you, the only way that I can be, until you're in my arms again. Remember me.
Thank you. Today we celebrate Day of the Dead, and at the risk of Ruben laughing at my accent, nosotros celebramos Dia de los Muertos. Oh, good. It's celebrated throughout Latin America, but is especially tied to Mexican culture. This is a time to remember ancestors and those who have gone on before us. It's a time for families to welcome back the souls of departed relatives, for a time of reunion that includes food, drink, and celebration. It's a blend, I read, of Mesoamerican ritual, European religion, and Spanish culture. Indeed, it is a time that we can remember the past, especially those of the past who have formed us and caused us to grow into who we are today. It's a unique holiday that really has no equivalent in the Anglo-Euro culture. All Saints' Day, which is celebrated this week also, comes close but doesn't have the same appeal and impact of Day of the Dead. Now, according to History.com, that well-known website, the origins of Dia de los Muertos goes back centuries before the Europeans arrived in the Americas. It's written there, the roots of Day of the Dead go back some 3,000 years to rituals honoring the dead in pre-Columbian Mesoamerica. The Aztecs and other Nahua people living in what is now central Mexico held a cyclical view of the universe and saw death as an integral, ever-present part of life. Upon dying, a person was believed to travel to Chikunumictlan. Go ahead, you try it. The land of the dead. Only after getting through 9 challenging levels, a journey of several years, could the person's soul finally reach Miklan, the final resting place. In Nahuo rituals, honoring the dead, traditionally held in August, family members provided food, water, and tools to aid the deceased in this difficult journey. This inspired the contemporary Day of the Dead practice, in which people leave food and other offerings on their loved ones' graves or set them out on makeshift altars called ofrendas in their homes. So today, here at Unity Spiritual Center, we stop to celebrate with those who have gone on before us with our own ofrenda. We remember them, but more importantly, it is a time to celebrate with them. Not just to recall their presence, but to give thanks how they formed us, sometimes without us even knowing it. Actions that occurred generations back affect us today, whether we know it or not. And so it is when we often get together to celebrate, we tell stories. We recall moments together. We share good times and memories. It keeps the spirit of our beloved ones alive. So today, we're going to tell stories of people who have gone before and made us who we are. Now, you don't have to have put a picture on the table here, but I'm going to offer you the opportunity in a moment to tell stories about those who have gone before. I'll come around with a mic to anyone who wants to keep the memory of a past one alive. And we want to include the people on Zoom. We're working towards being able to patch you in and have your voices heard, but we're not quite there yet technologically. So if you write your stories in the chat, I'll read them for you. And I'll start with a story of my family. Now, one of the pictures I put up on the far end over there is my father's family when my father was quite young. It includes my grandfather, Roy Bragg, who was a Methodist minister. He was evidently quite a fire and brimstone preacher. I never met him, as he died when my dad was quite young. But I remember hearing the story of the time he took my father and my father's twin brother to church with him and sat them on a sofa at the front of the sanctuary behind the podium. As Roy was preaching, the congregation started chuckling and losing attention to what he was saying. My grandfather turned around, and there my dad and his brother had both fallen asleep on that sofa in the middle of his sermon. Now it's time for your stories. I'm going to try to turn this around so the Zoom people can see. Oh, okay. Great. So just raise your hand if you have a story.
Thank you. In my photo, I have my father and his 3 sisters out of the siblings of 8 in their family. And my father, one of my favorite stories of him is that once we were driving in Napa, and he was talking with my cousin, and he was very happy, but he was going too slow. And so the guy that was behind him came up and took the time to slow down in the fast lane, look at my father, and give him the finger. But my father was still so involved and so happy in whatever his conversation was with my cousin. He turned and he saw the hand go up, so he just smiled and waved back at the guy, thinking that the guy was friendly and just saying hello. And then one of my aunts, it was very hard of hearing, and she would always talk to you as if you couldn't hear. And she would just keep making sure that, did you hear it? And then my two other aunts were very, very sweet. Whenever you go to their home, you could never leave without having eaten something and taking something home with you.
This being the eve of Halloween, I remember when I was in high school, I would walk home and only my mom would be home. And I would walk in and say, "Hello, Mama," and there wouldn't be anything around. No response. And then so I'd walk around the house, and then she would just jump out of a closet and say, "Boo!" So she got me every time.
You never got used to it. Others. Vera.
When I was very little, from the time I was 2, probably until I was in my 50s, we visited an aunt and uncle every single year. When I was in high school, they actually moved to the beach, a beachfront home. Many years before that, though, my uncle, who was an avid outdoor person, decided that my father and he should go clamming at 4 a.m. and that they should bring me along because I was under 10 years old. And if you're under 10 years old, you can get a full limit of clams and not have a license. Now, my uncle could do this. This is not a pipe dream. So up I get, out we go, and everything is great till we get to the beach and they realize that I put one of the poodles in the car. And it was dark and the dog was black. We could not find the dog on the beach. So, but they were clamming and they were paying no attention to us. My uncle said, "Not to worry. When I start the car, the dog will come." And when he started the car, the dog did come.
You had us in suspense.
So I was fortunate to have a really sweet father, and I think of him every day. And he had a twin brother. I was an only child, but my Uncle Bert, my dad's brother, had like 13 kids, so I was there all the time. And I heard a story about my uncle liked to smoke cigars. So his wife, my Aunt Jeanette, bought him a box of cigars for Christmas and before Christmas sometime, and she hid them. And he found the box of cigars, and he would take a cigar out and replace it with a clothespin. And as time went on, he kept taking cigars and replacing them with clothespins. And then at Christmas, he got this cigar box all wrapped up. He opened up and said, "Why did you give me a box full of clothespins?"
So I didn't get my dad for very long. He died at age 40, so I was just 7 years old. So in my space, he was a giant. I mean, he was everything a 7-year-old wanted dad to be. So I never got to experience the teenage angst and all the arguments that would normally go along to my dad. But he had an opposite thing that he wanted to do with his life, that he had to make a decision. Had decided whether he was going to be a doctor or a trumpet player because he was that good. But his mom, who was a piano teacher, but his dad was a doctor, and his brother was a doctor, and all my uncles were doctors. So doctor he became, but I still have his trumpet, and that I just restored it. So that's my story.
Everyone's been sharing stories about dads. I have a story to share about my mom. My mom unfortunately passed away at age 57, so she wasn't with us very long. But I'm the oldest of 3 children. 10 years between my brother and I, and 12 between my sister and I. Our grandparents lived in Louisiana, and so in the 60s when we would go to visit them, we took the train. And as you can imagine, I was raised under strict rules. You don't ask for stuff, and if you do, you make sure it's reasonable. Well, unfortunately, my brother and sister didn't follow those same guidelines. Anything they saw they wanted. Well, the train made stops along the way, and they would tell passengers they could get off the train. And so my brother and sister had made this elaborate list of the kind of candy they wanted and chips and this and that. My mom got off and went into the store, and they had said, 10 minutes or whatever. And she hadn't gotten back, and the train started moving. So my brother and sister said, "It's moving, and Mom's not here." And I said, "That's because you bratty kids ask. She's in there trying to get everything you ask for." So I ran to the conductor or whomever the attendant was and said, I looked up, and my mom was trying to run along the track of the train. And we said, you gotta stop, and let her get back on. So the ending of the story is they slowed down enough, and she was able to get back on the train. And needless to say, my brother and sister didn't ask for anything, and she never got off the train at any of the other stops until we reached our destination.
Thank you.
My story is about one of my grandmothers, my father's mother, who was a wonderful woman with whom we spent a lot of time, my brother and sister and I, when I was a kid. And she loved to tell ghost stories. And so we lived right behind them, just a couple hundred yards away or something like that. But it was dark, and we lived in the country, and there was no light in between our house and there. And she would tell us these ghost stories late at night, and just as after she finished the scariest part, she would say, "Okay, kids, time to go home." and we had to make our way through the dark, being scared to death after the ghost story.
There's one in the chat here from Terry Wade, who says, "I'm honoring the lives of my mom, grandma, grandpa, and Uncle Leo. I'm the last of this family lineage. My mom passed 2 years ago, and we loved to dance. Yesterday, as I danced in Zumba, I felt alive in her spirit with me." Any others? Oh, yes.
I do honor all those that have gone before us, and that all of their sacrifice and what they've learned on their journey to give to me and to my descendants. So I say Che Miigwech, which means with highest respect and honor in the Anishinaabe tradition. Thank you to all of those, and those that I carry in my heart. And I just wanted to share that my mom came from incredible poverty, and it still was pretty resident when I was little. But she made myself a little nightie for Christmas, and then a little one for my doll, so she could sew and make things out of other things, and could just make something out of nothing. And in our family, with my husband and I, were both musicians and pretty theatrical, so we a lot of times would dress up for different things. And my one son just really hung on to that he wears a cape for all these different occasions. It could be a Superman cape, it could be, Bela Lugosi. He just loves capes. And I have a picture of my mom in 90-degree heat cutting out this pattern to make him a cape for us to go to a Renaissance fair. And it just brings up so many wonderful memories that my older son, Justin, the one that likes the capes, has a younger brother 10 years younger, and we're gonna go out. So my youngest son, Sky River, is putting on every costume he has. There's Batman, and there's the Power Rangers, and he's got all these costumes lined up on him because he would get the power from each character, right? So he's increasing all his powers. And his brother says, "Just wear a simple black cape. It goes with everything."
I just wanted to honor several family members, my grandmother, grandfather, and grandparents from both sides of my family, as well as my husband's parents who've passed on. One of my favorite memories, my grandmother raised me for about 4 years when I was younger, and she was pretty blind, but she loved to sew. So she would sew by just feeling things. She sewed pillowcases of all sizes, and she gave them away. And we have a huge extended family of probably over 50 people in the Bay Area. So she would sew, and she would sort of cook, and and she would make boiled chicken. One of my favorite memories of her as a kid when she was raising me was she would watch wrestling matches on TV. It was the strangest thing. I couldn't figure out why she enjoyed watching them because she couldn't really see, and it was pretty violent, and she was never at all violent. Strange, isn't it?
You never know. Are there others? No, okay. Well, thank you all for your stories, for keeping alive the memories and lives of your ancestors. And now we come to a time of meditation. So I invite you to sit comfortably. Just relax. Take a deep breath. And close your eyes. Breathe deeply through this. And imagine yourself surrounded by a bright white light. Think about who you are, what you are made of, and know that everything within you is the sum of all your ancestors. From thousands of years ago, generations of people have come together over the centuries to create the person you are now. Your strengths, your weaknesses. They came from somewhere long before you were you. And this is a time to honor the ancestors who formed you. One by one, think of the ancestors you know who are departed. Recite their names or your genealogy to yourself as far back as you can go. As you say each name, you can describe the person and anything you know about their life. An example might go something like this. I am the son of George and Doris. Doris was the daughter of Alan and Helen. Alan's ancestors came across the ocean to this country in the early 1700s from Germany to start a new life in Pennsylvania as farmers. Helen's father, Frank Fetter, was a blacksmith. Her mother, Sarah Barrow Fetter, did needlepoint, and so forth. I'm going to give you some time now to go back as far as you like, elaborating in as much detail as you choose. And once you can go back no further, end with, those whose blood runs in me, whose names I do not yet know. Once you are through, sit quietly again and ask for any guidance or messages that your ancestors would like you to receive. During this time, just breathe and be aware of the thoughts and images that come into your mind. If you see an image or a man or woman unknown to you, ask their name, speak to them. See if they will respond. If you happen to meet a certain ancestor or their archetype during your meditation, before you come out, take a moment to thank them for stopping by. Work to remember any messages or information, thoughts, or impressions they may have given you. Even if it doesn't make sense just now, it may later on when you give it some more thought, or when the time for you to know is right. Now it's time to thank your ancestors and come back to wherever you are. Wiggle your fingers and toes a bit, roll your shoulders. When you're ready, open your eyes and come back to the place where you are, knowing that those who have gone before you have stayed with you. And so it is. Amen.
Here at Unity Spiritual Center, we are an
Ocean.
Whoa! Here at Unity Spiritual Center, we have an inspiring vision, an exciting mission, and compelling values by which we strive to live. Please join with me in saying them out loud. Our vision is centered in God. We co-create a world powerfully transformed through the growing movement of shared spiritual awakening. Our mission is, we are a creative, joy-filled spiritual community dedicated to healing, inspiring, and transforming the lives of all people through prayer, education, and love. And our values are, we are spirit-led, generous with resources, inclusive, joyously creative, and guided by integrity. And in this space, feeling so inspired by our vision, mission, and values, and feeling so enriched by what we experienced here today, let us take time now to be a channel for our enrichment through our generous tithes and love offerings. As Michael shares the next beautiful song, please take time to write out a check to USC, or if you're on Zoom, to make a donation online. If you are here in the sanctuaries, the ushers will come forward to take your offering. Practicing the principle of tithing ourselves as a spiritual community, we are pleased to tithe 10% of the offering collected every Sunday to various Unity organizations and local nonprofits serving the city. Let us now take a moment to bless our tithes and love offerings as we cup them in our hands or next to our hearts. Let us say our offering blessing, which is on your screen. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God.
So I started playing violin when I was 8 years old, and I used to, in high school, I practiced at least probably 6 hours every day. I was a music major at a really good school, and we had probably had the best orchestra in the United States, high school orchestra. So I had 2 periods of orchestra rehearsal, 1 period of individual practice, 1 period of section practice, and the music theory, and then I stayed after school, and I played in a quartet, and then I went home and practiced for my teacher. And I always liked the violin, but it was really hard for me. I really had to work at it, but I liked it, but I really had to work at it. So I put a lot of work into it and got very little out of it for the amount of work. Then when I went to college, the orchestra was really bad, and I didn't play for probably 40 years any music. And then I picked up the violin, and I went to the mandolin, which has the same fingering as the violin, so it's pretty easy. But I found it easier to play, more comfortable to hold, and you still had to work at it, but you didn't have to work so hard. You got more out of it. And then I found the drum, and for that, I had to work very little, and I got a lot out of it. And I think that's the unique thing one of the unique things about the drum is it really doesn't take a lot to play a drum. Just don't beat too much in the beginning. Just beat a little bit. Listen, feel the beat a little bit, and then beat a little bit more. And pretty quickly, you probably be able, if you can dance, or you feel a beat, or you beat your foot when you're listening to music, you can play the drum. Anybody can play the drum, even Ruben. So Ruben started playing the drum. He doesn't practice very much, but he's really good. He has a natural ability for it, I think. But you don't really need that. But he's lucky to have that, and he's playing pretty good, And he's never had any music lessons. If Ruben can do it, anybody here can do it. So about drumming, the other nice thing about drumming, so when you play the violin or mandolin, I have to really practice all the time. If I'm playing Russian music, I have practice to do. If I'm playing Italian, I got to go there. Jazz, I play in all different genres. I have to really practice. But the drum, you can beat anything. It doesn't matter. So I like jazz a little bit. I like Indian music a lot. I love Middle Eastern Arab music and Latin music. There's healing drumming. It's used to heal. There's drum circles. The thing is, it really connects you to people, and it goes right to the heart. I was amazed at, talking about spirituality and music, how fast, when Ruben and I were drumming, and we drummed in San Mateo in a little drumming circle with 4 of us, and somebody walked by and they just start dancing. It's immediate because it connects with the heart. Ron over here, we were talking about, he says he's tapping all the time because it's part of him, let's see. So I'm hoping that we can start a drum circle here the first Sunday of every month. That way it's easy for people to remember, and have it after the church service for 2 hours. So we finish usually, 12:30 usually, something like that? 12:15. So maybe have it at from 1:30 to 3:30 once a month. That'd be 12 days out of the whole year. And anyway, that's what I'm hoping we can do here. Another really good drum circle, you can look online. It's called Drums and Roses, and it's in San Jose, California. So if you Google that, it's once a month, and it's really nice. A beautiful place down there, and a rose garden. You can have a picnic if the weather's nice. And Ruben and I went down there, and you can actually see us on YouTube. if you, I'm trying to see here. Yeah, if you Google Drums and Roses on YouTube, you'll see something from a year ago called Banging Good Times in the Rose Garden. And we're on there if you guys want to look at that. Anyway, I hope you guys come to the drum circles. It's next Sunday. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Yes, next Sunday, don't miss it. Other announcements are that the daily word readings are continuing Mondays and Thursdays at noon via Zoom, which has gone down now. I don't know what's happening, but it's technology. We're not nirvana technology yet. There's always opportunities to volunteer, platform assistant, usher and greeter, bringing hospitality. We would be glad to have you take part in those things. The gratitude we have today are to Valerie and Shirley for being our ushers, to Kathy for filling in as greeter at the last minute, to Ben for being our technology person, for Annabelle for helping out, and to Michael, of course, for providing music. So we are grateful to all of you. And so let's turn to the blessing of our children and youth. We love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the presence of God in you, empowering you to do great things.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, a peace that was meant to be. With God as creator, family all are we. Let me walk with my family in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
And so we go through this week, remembering that we are the sum of many who came before us. And as we go through the week, we remember the light of God surrounds us,
The love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. Wherever I am, God is, and all is well. Thank you, God.
Yeah.